we talk about learning about sex, we often talk about our teenage years and puberty and what a confusing time that can be. But today I really want to tell you guys a story about something that happened to me just a few years ago in my 20s that really shows that we never really stop learning about sex and we never really stop learning about our bodies. So as a lot of you guys know, I did used to suffer from depression, and as well as having cognitive behavioural therapy, I was also given antidepressants as part of my treatment. Now, I must admit that when I was first given the antidepressants, I was a little bit nervous about taking them. I'd heard a lot about all the different side effects and things like that that can happen from taking antidepressants or taking any medication, but I really want to stress that I feel like the antidepressants really did get me through a bad time in my life, and they really did. I don't think it's too dramatic to say that they really did save my life. So they were really important, but there were a few side effects, and that's what I want to talk about today. So not a lot happened when I first started taking the medication. I think I was about 6 weeks into taking it before I started receiving any of the kind of benefits of taking it, and I think it was around that time that I started experiencing some mild side effects. So the first thing was that basically, when I was a teenager and when I was in school, I remember a period of everyone talking about wet dreams. I remember all the boys in my class were talking about having their first wet dreams, and I remember the teachers in science class and things like that talking about wet dreams. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically when you are sleeping and you pre-cum or ejaculate and you kind of wake up all sticky and covered in trace amounts of semen. And this was something that when I was a teenager and up until this point, it had never ever happened in my life. I don't know why that was. I don't know why I missed out on the whole wet dreams, but I did. I'd never ever had one. And then all of a sudden, at about 23 years old, for the first time in my life, I woke up in the middle of the night covered in semen. And I was very surprised by this, as you can imagine. For the first time in my life, in my mid-20s, I had had my first wet dream. And I remember being a little bit, I wasn't worried by this. I was like, if anything, I was excited. But I remember at the time, I didn't yet attribute this to the medication that I was taking. And I remember saying to my friends at the time that I felt like I was going through a second puberty, and I was having to learn about my body and all these new experiences for the first time. But that wasn't the only new thing that I experienced. I also experienced this kind of drop in my sex drive. Now, anyone that knows me, all my friends will tell you that I am a very sexually charged person, and I just kind of found that I wasn't as horny as usual. I wasn't kind of feeling the need or the desire to masturbate or go out and look for guys anymore. I just felt like that my sex drive had kind of started to dry up. But I wasn't really dating or having sex at the time anyway, so I don't think I really realised the extent of it until I went on a date with this guy who I had fancied for so long. He was literally so beautiful, one of the most attractive men I've ever dated, literally 10 out of 10. I had fancied him for so long, and I finally went on a date with him, and I think that's when I realised that something was different. I remember we went out for a nice meal and it was all very lovely, and then we went for a couple of drinks afterwards, and I remember sitting opposite him and being unbelievably attracted to him, and I really wanted to kiss him, and I really wanted all of those things that you feel, you know, those first date kind of jitters and butterflies. I felt all of that, and yet I didn't really have the same sexual desire that I would usually have. I find it really hard to explain, and even though this is something I experienced a few years ago, even saying it now, I kind of find it hard to kind of understand how that would feel. So if you're watching and you're a little bit confused by what I mean, I totally get that. But it was just it was like something was missing. It was like something wasn't quite there. But the date went really well, and I ended up inviting him back to my place for a little bit of Netflix and chill. And we were getting quite cuddly while watching a movie, and then we started kissing, and then things started progressing, and we started taking off each other's clothes. And everything was fine up until this point. I was still able to get an erection, that wasn't a problem, but it wasn't until we started kind of fooling around that, again, I felt like I wasn't quite in it. I felt like I wasn't quite as turned on as I usually would be. And then that is when surprise number 2 happened, and for the first time in my life, I started to pre-cum. And I know for a lot of people out there that is completely normal, but this had never happened for me before. Again, it was something that I was very aware of. I'd been with guys who pre-came loads, but I never had myself. So it came as quite the surprise, and I think the other guy was a little bit confused as to why I was so shocked. But I wasn't worried at this stage, and I wasn't concerned, and I don't think I even realised even then that it was the medication that was causing this. I thought my body was just going through some changes, and I was experiencing some new things, and I was clearly enjoying myself, so we carried on. And then, as if the wet dreams and the pre-cum weren't enough, that is when I realised that I could not come. I could not orgasm. And believe me, we tried, but it was like it was impossible. It was like there was a barrier. It was like there was a wall there preventing me from being able to do that. And I guess that was the first negative side effect. And I think that's when I first started to realise that, oh, maybe it's the medication that is causing all of these changes. So I told the guy that I was taking medication. I just said, I think this is why I'm unable to finish. But, you know, he finished. He still had a great time, and I did too. You know, I don't feel like you have to reach orgasm to have a good time in bed. I still had a great time, and I hold absolutely nothing against him for being able to finish and me not being able to. And so after this little experience, I realised I had a drop in my sex drive. I was having wet dreams, I was pre-cumming for the first time in my life, and I was unable to orgasm. And I think all of these things combined, I was like, yeah, I should definitely go and see a doctor at this stage. So I went along to see her, and she was unbelievably lovely. She was so supportive, and she just said, you know, this is a fairly common side effect. It doesn't happen to everyone, obviously, but it does happen to quite a few people when they take this medication, and that it's completely normal. And she kind of offered me 3 options at that stage. So she said that we could experiment with the dosage of the medication, so maybe like reduce the amount that I was taking, and that might solve the problem. She said that we could try swapping to a different type of medication. So I was on citalopram, which is just one type of antidepressant medication, and there are lots of different ones available. So she said that we could try and move on to a different medication, and that might fix the problem. Or the third option, and the option we went for, was actually just to ride it out, to wait and see if the side effects disappeared on their own. And they did. After just a couple of weeks, I continued taking the medication as normal, and the side effects completely went away. And you're probably sat there wondering, what the hell is the point of this video? And that is the point of the video, is that I took medication that was life-saving. Taking antidepressants, I know it sounds dramatic, literally saved my life and got me through the roughest period of my life. And I don't want anyone to be afraid or put off by the side effects, because that's all they are. They're just minor side effects, and your doctor can help you with them. So, you know, if you are taking medication, if you're taking antidepressants or anxiety medication or anything else, and you're having any side effects, just talk to your doctor. And I know it can be really embarrassing to talk to your doctor about sex, or talk to anyone about sex, but you absolutely should, because, you know, medication is important, and you shouldn't let these little things deter you from taking it. So I also want to say a massive thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. They reached out to me and asked me to make a video on mental health, and I said, can I make a video talking about the fact that I was unable to come when I was taking medication? And they said yes for some reason. So massive thank you to them for supporting my channel and for sponsoring this video. They're basically an online therapy service that allows you to talk to a trained counsellor whenever you want, from the comfort of your own home, or from basically anywhere with an internet connection, wherever you feel most comfortable. A really close friend of mine actually used BetterHelp a couple of years ago when he was going through a really rough time, and he recommended them to me. And this was long before I was ever working with BetterHelp or affiliated with BetterHelp in any way, so I can promise you that his recommendation was legit. I also know that from personal experience that therapy can be really expensive, so BetterHelp offer a more affordable option, and they even offer some kind of financial plans for people who may not be able to afford it. I'm going to put a link down in the description below, so do go and check that out if you do think that online therapy might be right for you. I hope you found this video both educational and entertaining. If there are any other videos that you guys would like me to cover, whether that's to do with sex or mental health or anything else, then please do let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do give this video a like and a comment if you did enjoy it, and I'll see you all very soon. See ya!